We're going to move into our last unit, which is statistics. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to describe data and we're going to look at dot plots. Now, when we're describing data, we're going to use the acronym SOX. And what SOX stands for is the shape of the graph. We see if there's any outliers. We see the center of the graph, and we're going to look at the spread of the graph. So we're going to state those four things with each of our graphs. Now there's three main shapes that we're going to look at. We're going to look at skewed right, and if something is skewed right, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a graph that's tail end is more to the right. So something that's skewed right, a dot plot would look something where on the right hand side it's more spread out. That's where the skewness is. So when it's skewed right, the spread is on the right hand side. Approximately symmetric means that when we have our dot plot, it's going to be pretty much centered at some point, and it's going to be symmetric or almost symmetric. So almost symmetric means approximately symmetric. If it's exactly symmetric, then you could just say symmetric. And our last option is skewed left. That's when we have a dot plot, and as you probably guessed, it's going to be similar to the skewed right. Except if you look at this one, notice that on the left-hand side, it's more spread out, and that would be skewed left. So that right there describes the shape. Outliers would be a point that deviates away from the rest of the data. So if we're looking at our symmetric one right here, and we have a point way far away from all the rest of the data, we call that an outlier. There are three different centers. Today, we're just going to look at the mode. The mode is the number that's the most frequent. So when we're looking at this data right here, our mode would be the one that has 3 dots instead of the ones that have 1 or 2 dots. So once again, the mode is the one that's the most frequent. And the last part of the distribution is our spread. There's multiple different types of spread: range, standard deviation, IQR. We're going to get to each of them, but today we're just going to focus on the range. How we find the range is we take our maximum value and we subtract our minimum value. So that right there is describing our distribution. The second thing that we're going to do today is we're going to graph a dot plot. And what a dot plot is we draw a number line. We start with our minimum value, and then we end with our maximum value. And we can either put dots or X's. I've seen it both ways. I personally like the dot better, but if you want to put an X, that means the exact same thing. If you look at example 1, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a dot plot, and we're going to describe the distribution. So dot plot first, it makes it easier after we do the dot plot to describe the distribution. Notice that if we look at the data, it's hard to describe it, but once we see the dot plot, it's going to be really easy to describe the distribution. So when we're doing a dot plot, we draw a number line. We put our least value first, so that's 2, and then we end it at our greatest value, which is 8. So we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And remember, you could put either dots or X's. I'm going to put dots. So I put a dot above the 2. There's a 3, so I put a dot above the 3. We have 2 4s. So for the 4, I put a dot and then a dot. For the 5, I put 3 dots. 6 is 1 dot. 7 is 1 dot. And 8 is 1 dot. This right here is my dot plot. Now I'm going to describe the distribution. In order to describe the distribution, we have our 4 characteristics. So we're going to look at our shape first. And with our shape, if we're looking at this, notice that our peak is right here. And there's 3 on the right, there's 3 on the left. So we would say approximately symmetric. Then we're going to look at outliers. And if we're looking at outliers, notice that all the points are pretty close together. We don't have a point way out here, so that would be an outlier. So we would say none. Next thing would be our center. And the center that we're going to focus on today is the mode. So you have to put mode when you put center, because center could refer to any of the three, the median or the mean. But today we're just going to do the mode. The mode is the one that occurs the most. And if you're looking at this, notice that 5 occurs the most. So 5 is the mode. And the last thing that we're going to do is the spread. Once again, there's a lot of spreads, but the spread that we're going to focus on today is just the range. And how we find the range is we take our maximum value minus our minimum value. So it would be 8 minus 2, which is 6. And that's how we describe our distribution. Now, looking at letter B, it's slightly more difficult because our numbers are not in order. So we're going to draw our number line. We're starting with our least value. When we look at our data, we see that our least value is 6, so we're going to start with our 6. And our greatest value is 19. So what we're going to do is we're going to end at 19. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So I'm just going to go in order so I don't get lost. I have 14, I have 19, I have 6, I have 13. Sometimes what I might do is I might cross it off so I make sure I don't make a mistake, skip one, or write it twice. 16, 17, 15, 14, 17, 18, 18 again, 17, and 18. So that right there is our dot plot. Now we're going to describe the distribution. Once again, when we're describing the distribution, we're going to talk about our 4 characteristics. First, our shape. And remember, we use SOX to remember shape, outliers, center, spread. So shape would be skewed left. And remember, the reason why it's skewed left is it's more spread out on the left-hand side. So our center would be about here. Notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, quite a few rows on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there's only one. We're going to look at outliers. And notice that we do have an outlier. 6 is way off from all the rest of the data. So 6 is our outlier. Our center is the mode. And we actually have 2 modes. So we have our modes being 17 and 18. You don't have to put this, but this is called bimodal. Bimodal means 2 modes, just like a bicycle has 2 wheels. Bimodal has 2 modes. And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at our spread. With the spread, we're talking about the range, so make sure you write the word range because there's lots of different spreads. Our maximum value is 19. Our minimum value is 6. When we subtract them, 19 minus 6 is 13.